I think that you already know a little bit about absolute value. Right? I can't read today. Absolute of -2. It's 2. Well, what about this? If I tell you absolute value of some value I want you to solve this. Tell me what x is. But I'm telling you the absolute value of that thing is 5. What is x? Yeah, it could be 2 things, couldn't it? For this, x could be 5, but x could also be -5, right? There's 2 possibilities. And that's what you have to keep in mind for today. If the absolute value of x is 5, it could be equal to the positive value, but it also could be equal to the negative value. Right? So if I have something like absolute of 3x minus 2 equals 8. What was that again? The absolute value is equal to the 5, but it's also equal to the opposite value. Absolute value is equal to the positive and the negative value. So for this, you're actually going to have 2 cases, 2 solutions. You're going to have this absolute value equal to the positive case, but you're also going to have equal to the negative. So, but the one thing you have to remember when you do these, the absolute value has to be all by itself. The absolute value has to be by itself. I can't breathe. The absolute value has to be by itself. So if you have to call 911, you have to tell them the last thing she said was, I can't breathe. Got it? But if you use my phone, don't forget you got to dial 8 first. So you'll have to dial 811. I'm just kidding, John. I don't think I'm going to croak. Well, yes, eventually I am going to croak, but not today. So I set it equal to the positive, and I also set it equal to the negative, and then guess what we're going to do? Solve it. What do you do first here? So I get 10, and then divide by, and I get x equals 10/3. One solution. And of course, I know all you conscientious students will plug it back in here and make sure it works. Then I also have another possible solution. What do? Add 2. Only this time it's -8 plus 2. That's not too difficult, is it? You have to get the absolute value all by itself first. Once it's all by itself, then you set it equal to the positive value and you set it equal to the negative value. Let's try another one just for fun. How about this one? It's an inequality. First one, just like it is there. There's my first one. Second one. Now, notice this one's an inequality. Inequalities are a little bit different. Instead of exactly the same, you have to flip the inequality also. Flip the inequality and change the sign. With an equals, you just have to change the sign, change the sign. But if it's an inequality, once, just the way it is right there, the second time, flip the inequality, change the sign. And now you just solve both pieces like we did yesterday. You know how to do that, right? I have all the t's together, so I have to get rid of the 3. Is that 2? What am I going to divide by? What am I going to divide by? Right? -2. You guys are on the ball more than first hour. They just woke up. Less than, right? Right? What did we divide by? What do you have to do when you divide by a negative? We got to flip it. Oh, for the Pete's sake. You got to flip it. We divided both sides by negative. Flip the inequality. So one possibility, t is greater than -1. Now we have to do the same thing over here. Solve it. I have all the t's together. Have to get rid of what's with it. -2t. Is that -8? Now what? Now what? Divide both sides by -2 again. And what do I get for this one? Why less than,
No,
John?
less than 4.
Why? Why less than? Right. We divided by a negative again, so we have to flip it. So, is that +4 then? So you get 2 parts. T greater than -1, t less than 4. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how about one more, just for fun? Just for fun. Anybody with questions yet? Oh, I can tell you're having fun. 2z minus 1 plus 3. And it is greater than or equal to 8. Now this one's a little bit tricky. Tricky. The most important thing. The most important thing. You got to get the absolute value all by itself. You got to get the absolute value all by itself. Is it all by itself? No. I want this all by itself. Look over there. Absolute value by itself. Absolute value by itself. In order to get the absolute value by itself, what do you have to get rid of? Yes. And if you don't do that first, it's going to be wrong. It'll come out wrong. There. It's easy. You just have to remember to do it. So, once you get the absolute value by itself, then what? Then what? Split it down into the 2. We shall split it down into 2. Uno. Just like it is there, just take off the absolute value. Greater than or equal to 5. Second, flip the inequality, so make it less than or equal to -5. Flip the inequality, change the sign. Flip the inequality, change the sign. And now you're just going to solve it. Add 1, and I get 2z greater than or equal to 6. So far, so good. So that looks like z greater than or equal to 3. Yes? And for this one, add 1, and I get 2x less than or equal to -4. Divide by 2, divide by 2. Flip the inequality. Flip it? No, don't flip it, because we're dividing by a +2. You only flip when you divide by a negative. Flip when you divide by a negative. So even though over here your answer comes out to be a -2, you don't need to flip it because the thing you divided by is positive, not negative. So less than or equal to. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Perfect sense? Perfectly clear? Guess how many people are on? 1. Me. Anybody with questions on any of that? Questions? Are there any questions? Does anyone have a question? Would that be page 75? Yes, page 75. Page 75. Page 75, I have a short assignment. Page 75. And 19 to 24. So I think you should be able to finish that before you leave today. Do you think you should be able to finish that? I think so.